Hi. As you know, in past I've made numerous tapes on various chess openings with concrete and detailed analysis, probably one or in some cases two tapes per opening. And I've made overall over 20 tapes on the openings. But some players have general problem with playing openings in a tournament, and they either do not wish to study detailed openings, or they don't have time, or they have difficulties. For those players, we want to make, I'm making now complete opening repertoire, the easy way, quick way, something you can learn and play overnight. Now, of course, it's not going to be as the analysis on of these openings and this preparation is not going to be as complete, as detailed as on these separate videotapes, but it's going to give you at least the window for the opening, for the middle game. So that means you can bypass the opening without getting bad position. So it's very brief. What is going to suffer in this case? It's going to suffer quality of the opening, and you cannot be as ambitious if you study it this way. For example, if you study opening in the great details, you definitely want to get an advantage for white, and you definitely want to get playable and active position, maybe even equal or playable position for black. So what we're going to try here, we're going to try to get for white positions where you have clear plan to play, but you may not have real advantage, because that's what you can learn quick and easy way. So remember, we have like little over 2 hours for white, whole repertoire, and a little over 2 hours for black. So we cannot pick the opening, analyze it in full details, and every opening black might choose, and every opening white may choose against us. So we have to be very brief, basic points make, and if you need further analysis and look at the same openings in some detailed analysis, then you're going to have to use some opening books such as MCO, BCO, or ECO, Encyclopedia Chess Openings, Bets for Chess Openings, or Modern Chess Openings. So let's start with the opening repertoire for white. Again, some of you may be E4 players, but some of you may be D4 players. Again, we cannot put it all on one CD or DVD, on one tape, or on one disc. So what I will do now, this will be designed, this repertoire will be designed for the D4 players. You know, when you play white, choosing the opening mostly is up to black. White can choose certain variations in that opening, but the opening itself is chosen by the black. So D4. Well, we know when white plays D4, there are numerous of different openings. Some of them are even very rarely played openings, and as I mentioned before, we don't have time to go into quick details. The openings are such as D5, and D5, after D4, D5 is not the opening. We can get, by playing C4, we can get to Slav defense, where black plays c6 on second move, with queen's gambit decline after e6, or with queen's gambit accepted after d takes c. Also, there are moves like knight c6, that's separate opening. Also, bishop f5 is also separate opening. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover all those openings, but it's going to be brief guide for you, and if you need more information, you have to get help from the opening manuals. So first move is d4, and let's start in the random order. We have to cover, out of big openings, we have to cover queen's gambit declined, queen's gambit accepted, Grunfeld defense, king's Indian, and Nimzo Indian. Well, other openings are Chigorin defense, or Dutch, or maybe even b6 and e6, whatever it's called in various different countries or various different books. They call it differently, those openings. So let's go with d4, d5. I want to start with queen's gambit decline. d4, d5, c4, e6. Now, you want to learn this opening quickly and make sure that you get playable position with a view, with a good view on a middle game, that you know what you're doing in the middle game. What I suggest, to go knight c3, knight f6. This is the most common way. C takes d, e takes d, and now bishop g5. This is the quick way to learn this queen's gambit decline. After bishop g5, move to expect is bishop e7. Remember, black may play knight d7 first. It's like a changing move order, but it does not have, this knight d7 move does not have an independent value. We know that you cannot play knight takes d5, since we lose after knight takes d5. This is old trick. And bishop takes d8, bishop b4 check, and black wins. We don't want to make stops on this and analyze it in any further details. So after bishop to e7, which is the most common move, we go e3, black castles, white goes knight f3, or bishop d3, white goes, black goes c6, queen c2, knight to d7. Now, this black's move can be played in different order. Black may play knight d7 first and c6 later, or they may play knight d7 before they castle, or they may play c6 before they castle. Those moves have to be made. So we continue our plan. We put the queen on c2, bishop on d3. We go now knight f3, and this is the position you want to play. After rook e8, you have two plans, and it's absolutely matter of taste. What you may play, in both cases, you have a clear plan. Now, let's go, before we get to this position, let's go once more from beginning. Remember, we can get to this position actually several different ways. So the way it's going to work, d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, knight f6, c takes d, e takes d, and bishop to g5. Now, there are a couple of points I have to make before we go into details of this opening. If black plays bishop e7, remember, you should never let black to develop bishop on f5. If you let black develop bishop on f5 and play c6 followed by knight d7, that means you did something wrong. And let's see why black cannot do it. After bishop e7, you go normal e3 move. Now let's see where, in what position, black can play bishop f5. Bishop f5 in this position is a real bad idea. Simply because white can play bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, queen b3, attacking pawns on d5 and b7. It's a double attack. White wins a pawn, gets winning position. So bishop f5 cannot be played yet, that means. So after e3, bishop f5 is not good. And if black plays c6 in this position, then we go bishop d3, and there is no more bishop f5. Now let's try a different attempt. In a position when white played bishop g5 after 4 moves, suppose now black plays c6, and after e3, bishop f5. Now this is not good position either, but there is different reason. We are not going to win a pawn here. We cannot win a pawn, but we can get an advantage two different ways. There is a move, queen to b3, attacking b7 pawn, which is not easy to defend. In b6 is a bad move because creates bad weakness on c6. And after white plays knight f3, bishop e2, and castle short, they put rook on c1, or they play knight e5, and c6 pawn for black is a big problem. So the way to play after queen b3, d7 pawn has to be protected. And if black plays queen b6, then after queen takes b6, a takes b, and bishop takes f6, black has bad pawn structure, and white has an advantage. In my opinion, the way you should play here, just simply go king d2, because you want to exchange light square bishops, play bishop d3, and then black has bad pawn structure. Again, I don't think we have time to go into details how to play against those weaknesses, but this is how you should play against pawn weaknesses. It's not the subject that has to be covered on the opening tapes. That's the subject it's how to play chess in general. And that's something you have to use common sense and get information from some other sources we cannot cover on this CD. So this way we realize that when we play bishop g5 in this position, we just played bishop g5, black cannot play bishop f5. So black plays bishop e7, we go e3, and when black castles, we go bishop d3 already. Now after c6, queen c2, you see that we have a threat of bishop takes f6, followed by bishop takes h7. So, most common move here in this position is knight d7. It's the only move that makes sense. Knight f3 and rook to e8. Well, in this position, that's where we start. That's where we have choice 1. We can castle long, or we can castle short. I play this position for white all the time, and I choose either one of these continuations. I like them equally, so I can castle short or queenside. It's a matter of taste. Now, if you like to castle queenside, now, briefly, I'm going to introduce you to the plan for white. What white wants to do, you know, as a general rule in chess, when sides castled on opposite, when you castle on opposite sides with your opponent, there will be attack would be launched against each other's kings. So what your plan is to go king b1, h3, g4, possibly knight e5, f4, and so on. That's what your plan is. What black's plan is, black has to do one of two things. Either they have to go knight e4 and try to simplify and try exchange pieces, or try to go for counterattack with a5, b5, a4. Now, counterattack, interestingly enough, in this position, is counterproductive. Well, for instance, move like b5 is not a good move, because you go king b1, and when white goes a5, all of a sudden, black is in big trouble after knight e5. By creating knight e5, believe it or not, you already won a pawn. You're attacking two pawns. What kind of two pawns? One is on c6, and where is the other pawn we're attacking? You're attacking h7 pawn by playing knight to e5. How you do that? You want to play knight. You see the h7 pawn is protected by knight on f6. And if we take bishop takes the knight on f6, that's protected with a knight on d7. So if we start exterminating those knights, starting with d7, for example, black protects the pawn on c6. We take knight on d7, followed by taking knight on f6, and followed by taking pawn on h7. So black is going to lose a pawn for nothing. And the plan remains the same after that, g4 and f4 and g5. So black has to be very careful not to lose material in this position. So when they go b5 and a5, and also once white plays, they cannot go b5, so they may try to go queen b6, but queen b6, then we can still go knight e5, followed by f4 and g4. That's the main plan, and that's all you have to know to get to this middle game. That's sufficient enough for you to get decent position where you know what to do in the middle game. Now let's go back and get the position with castling to short side. So let's quickly arrive to the same position, d4, d5, c4, e6. Now we're going to go quickly to arrive to that position, knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, bishop e7, e3, c6, castle, queen c2, knight d7, knight f3, rook e8, and here we are castling short. Now, you may prefer this. It's a matter of taste, as I said. There is no such a thing that this is better than that. This is maybe better for one player, and castling long may be better for different player, because it suits better his style. Now, when you castle short, what is your plan here? There is only one plan for white here, to play on a queen side. And white has to get pawn minority attack. Well, how this may look, let's look. Knight f8. One of the possible continuances, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, b4. Basic plan, you can play bishop takes f6 and b4, or you can go rook b1, preparing b4. The bottom line is b4 is the plan. You want to go b4, you want to go b5, you want, for example, on knight g6, b4, and then you want to go b5, take on c6, and create weakness for black, and continue pressing on this weakness. And if black tries to take on b5, then you take back, and they're going to have different weakness on d5. So you're practically playing against pawn weaknesses, against the pawn structure. There are many games played on a very high level. You can find this. There is a way, if you have the database and you look at on ChessBase, searching this database, you can find those type of position by the pawn structure. Well, you have to look at the manual, and they will explain. It will explain you how to do that. So B4 and B5, those are two different ways for white to play this opening, Queen's Gambit decline. And I personally have difficulties to give preference to one or the other. They are both equally good and both equally reliable. And the most important, it's not how good the opening is, because we are learning here the opening the easy way, the quick way, the express way. So then all you need to know, you have to get a reasonable position with the clear plan for the middle game. And here, in both cases, you got it. This is probably the complete analysis that we can have for, and a complete, this is the knowledge. That's what you have to know for Queen's Gambit declined. Now, let's D4, D5, C4. Now let's look at very popular Slav defense, D4, D5, C4, C6. Now, there are many different ways to play this opening. There are very ambitious ways for white with extremely rich theory, and we can make 2 tapes only on Slav defense. We don't have luxury of doing it. So I have to give you one quick system that you can learn right away, and you are out of this opening with decent position, and you know what to do in the middle game. The way to do it is not to go knight f3 or knight c3, which may lead to complicated position, and if you are not prepared well enough, you are good candidate for quick assassination. So c takes d is the way to get reasonable and slightly better position. C takes d, c takes d. Now we develop both knights in any order. Knight c3, knight c6, knight f3, knight f6. This is likely to happen. Okay? So this is the probably about 80-90% of the time, once you take on d5, that's what you're going to get. And now bishop f4. Your plan is simply to develop pieces and castle and play rook c1. Now, but you at the same time, you don't want black to develop pieces the exact same way, and then you get no advantage, and it's a draw. We don't want draw for white. We want clear position, maybe equal position. There is a difference between equal position and drawish position. Drawish position when it's draw, but equal position, where position is equal, but there's a lot of play. Anything can happen, equal chances. So it's not. Okay, after bishop f4, there are few basic continuations. Actually, maybe couple. a6 and bishop f5. Now, a6, that move that they started playing lately with the idea on e3 to play bishop g4, and then black plays e6, and they develop all their pieces. The idea is that black wants to play e6 after they develop bishop c8. They can do it by playing in this position, by playing bishop f5, which leads to somewhat complicated variations. Which is, you have to learn, you cannot have an opening repertoire without studying any of 44th and sharp variations. You have to study, you have to learn some sharp variation, but you have to keep it to minimum, to as easy as few as possible, and keep it very, very low, the number of them. So the way you do it, so on bishop f5, let's start bishop f5, and then we're going to look at a6, and that will wrap the Slav defense up. So bishop f5, e3, e6. Now we have symmetry, 100% symmetrical position. It's known basically in the game of chess. When there is a symmetry, at some point, black, and as soon as possible, black must break the symmetry, because symmetry cannot be followed for too long, or one of the sides is going to be in a lot of trouble. e3, e6, now white goes bishop b5. Now there is a way to play for black bishop b4 that was played before, but after queen a4, white has an advantage. Now, we don't want to go into details of queen a4 move that was played by Botvinnik many, many years ago. Look in the book and you will find quick answer to this. The main move in this position after bishop b5 is rook c8, and I will give you a quick update on it. After rook c8, white goes queen a4, and the main move for black is knight d7. That's what you find as the main variation after bishop b5. And I think wrongfully for long time, this position was known as good, or at least okay position for black. I don't agree with it, and here is the variation. Bishop takes c6. This is all known theory. Rook takes c6. We're going to go quickly through this because we don't want to make too many steps. And as always, this is the sharp variation, which is easy to check with any of the engines available, Fritz, Fritz and Hierarchs or Tiger. Or there are many different programs that you can check it on. Queen takes a7, queen c8. Now, this position is known as good for black because right now black is threatening rook a6 to trap the queen, and also black is threatening rook takes c3 to win material. White goes queen a5, and now black goes rook a8, then white goes queen c7, and black goes queen a8. It looks like black wants to play rook c6, and white may be in trouble next move because queen is going to be trapped here again. But there are several ways to play this position for white. The move is castling, and now rook c6 is not a good move. It looks like winning, it looks like white queen is trapped, but after knight to b5, black is in a lot of trouble. You may have no difficulties understanding why, and we don't want to go into further details. After knight b5, this is bad position for black. So what instead black may do is play bishop d3, attacking the rook, and trying to play rook c8 next, rook c6 next. Well, but then on bishop d3, we have also a variety of good continuations. So after bishop d3, now white has to move the rook. But the point of bishop d3 move is if rook moves somewhere to d1, black will go rook c6, and white does not have any more knight b5 move because bishop controls b5 square. So the move to play after bishop d3, rook f to c1. This is also very interesting piece sacrifice by white, and I think white has upper hand in that position. Rook to c6, and now white's queen is trapped. So white plays knight takes d5, and black must take the knight, since they cannot take queen after rook c7, knight takes c7, white simply wins. So black must take the knight, and now white plays rook takes c6, pawn takes c6, and let's see, what do we have here? We only have 2 pawns for the piece. That's not enough, but we have knight e5 move, which attacks the knight on d7, pawn on c6. Black is forced to capture knight, knight takes e5. Now queen takes e5 check, and black has 2 choices, king d7 and bishop e7. The best move is bishop e7 to give up a 3rd pawn on g7. So let's see what happens after king d7. After king d7, white simply plays queen c7 check, and after king e8, now white does not want to repeat position by playing queen e5. They simply play rook c1, and black is in a very, very bad shape here, because white is threatening to take 3rd pawn, king cannot castle, and very difficult for black to conclude development. We don't want to go into details. I did myself, and we cannot analyze every variation here. Either take my word for it or check it yourself. So, this is the way to play against Slav. Let's go back again. And black has an option. That if black plays bishop f5 in the symmetrical position, d4, d5, c4, c6, c takes d, knight c3, knight c6, knight f3, knight f6. Remember, those knights can be developed in any order. It doesn't make difference. Bishop f4, and we just covered bishop f5 move. But on bishop f5, that's what you do. e3, e6, bishop b5, and then you will be arriving to that position. If somehow black decides to play a6, you simply take knight on c6, then castle, and black has some pawn weaknesses. And weak square on c5, knight a4, rook c1, white has some advantage here. So the move we want to analyze here is not the bishop f5, but lately more popular move, which is a6. After a6, what I would recommend, there are 2 ways. You can either simply play e3, bishop g4, bishop e2, and just continue development, put the rook on c1, and it's just a very easy game, or become a little more ambitious. Try to prevent development of this bishop on g4, play knight e5. And now black has problems developing bishop on c8. They can go bishop d7 or queen b6. Now there is some theory here, and if you are not satisfied with a simple e3 move, then play knight e5, and again you have to go for help to one of the opening publications. We cannot cover this because it's far too much to spend on Slav defense, and we have to move on. Let's go back now. This will complete our coverage of a Slav defense. Now, when you go d4, d5, and c4, another big opening, I mean the popular opening for black, is Queen's Gambit accepted. What would I recommend to play on Queen's Gambit accepted? After d takes c, I would recommend to go knight f3, knight f6, and the simplest variation, e3. Now, black here has 2 choices. They have two different ways, two different plans. Years ago, very popular was variation with bishop g4, then e6, developing knight on d7 or c6 and bishop d6. This kind of development. And the other very popular way of developing is e6, c5, and a6. Let's look at both of them. This is something you have to have one clear plan on every one of these continuous. Well, after e3, suppose they go bishop g4. What do we play? We play simply bishop takes c4, e6. Now, white can win a pawn here by going queen b3, then bishop takes f3, g takes f, and knight d7. But I don't recommend winning this pawn because black has substantial compensation for it. So what I would recommend to do after e3, bishop g4, bishop takes c4, e6, is to play h3, bishop h5. Now, this is modern theory. We castle bishop d6, and now we break the pin by playing very natural move, bishop e2, castles. And now I would like to develop my knight on d2, and black plays knight c6 or knight d7, mostly knight c6, with the idea of playing e5. Now, knight d7 may be played as well, with the same idea of e5. Now we go b3, and e5 is very bad in this position because black is not ready yet. e5 is nearly losing move. The reason why we just take on e5, and after knight takes e5, we play knight takes. Actually, we take on e5 right away with a knight. Knight takes e5. And if black plays bishop takes e2, we play knight takes c6 first, and we simply win material here. So black has to play in this position. They have to first move the queen. They cannot move queen on e7, because on queen e7 we go bishop b2, and after e5 the same problem. Knight takes e5, and on bishop takes e2, knight takes c6, and black's queen is on pre, and white wins a pawn. So the correct move in that position is queen to e8. Here is the position. Here is the position. And not queen e7, but queen to e8. Now, black is ready to play e5. Now, notice that before this position arrives, this is inaccurate way to play for black. What black should have done in this position, let's go back.